aber jetzt knallen.
Sus!
We are about to write history.
For this war to end, we must take this land.
The Greeks and Trojans will be here forever. But now, it's our turn.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ashi. I was really surprised at the response I got from the Commander Guide. It made me really happy to see that so many of you enjoyed it. It made me want to do more and spread some knowledge. Now, I'm not the best Battlefield player, and I'll be the first to admit that, but I do have a platform to share knowledge I know. As promised, I have another video for you all today, and we're going back to the basics, a beginner guide for those not only new to Battlefield, but I'm sure a refresher for some of you. Up until I released this video, I've been playing the game extensively and noticed that some of you, not all of you, don't understand the basics behind this game. Battlefield has its own playstyle, and it's not just some elitist YouTuber telling you this. With these tips, not only will you increase how fast you rank up, but how much you enjoy the game. So, today I have 4 topics that I'd like to address, and are tips every Battlefielder needs to know. And just a heads up, these tips are my personal opinion. This isn't official and you don't have to agree. If you have any comments, feedback, or criticism, leave a comment below. I do my very best to answer everyone's questions and comments. The only thing I ask of you is to be mature and constructive. Let's start off with tip number 1. Personal stats don't matter, wins do. It's kind of hard to adjust to this if you're, say, coming from an FPS like Call of Duty, but don't sweat it. Things just got easier for you. Initially, I don't want you to pay attention to your KDR, SPM, or skill. Pay attention to winning and your win-loss ratio. You as a player need to understand and focus and figure out what it takes to win. KDR doesn't matter because there's simply too many variables in this game. Simply put, I've topped the leaderboard in 64-man rounds with 13 kills and 9 deaths before. Second place on the enemy team. He had 56 kills and 8 deaths. We won, and I beat him in overall score by thousands of points. SPM doesn't matter because it's infected with score from ribbons, medals, and Slim Jim double XP promotions. It simply is not a good way to judge yourself or other players. Skill is the most emphasized stat on Battlelog. It's also, in my opinion, the most worthless. How is skill calculated? Skill has a brand new algorithm that we know nothing about in Battlefield 4. All we know is that it's very different from Battlefield 3 and is much more focused on PTFO. It's pretty pointless in a game with a server browser where you choose who to play. Don't let it bother you when you top the leaderboards, win the game, and still lose minus 17 skill. I couldn't fucking tell you why. The second tip I have for you is squad up. Squads are the first indication that Battlefield 4 is very focused on team play. The benefits to running with a squad are astronomical. You'd be crazy not to. Not only do you gain a little extra point on the side for actions like healing, repairing, and supplying ammo, you also gain squad score for being a spawn point, reviving, and even derp following orders. Hear that? You can get extra points for just being a good teammate and not being a lone wolf. Field upgrades are another big benefit of squads and require squad-related actions. If you don't know what field upgrades are, they're in your loadout. I'd call them the new perk system. The more you stick with your squad, the faster these upgrade, and the better team player you are. It's important to note, if your squad is wiped, you will lose some of your progress. This third tip is probably one of the most important. It was born from Battlefield and is the #1 tip I can give you ever. PTFO. If that's foreign to you, it means play the fucking objective. It's not PTO, it's PTFO. Got it? Good. Playing the objective is very important. It really stems from the last 2 tips, but it needs to be emphasized. If you don't play the objective, you lose. You lose points, you lose kills, you lose important assets, you lose the round. I promise you, this will change how you play the game if you live by it. You don't need to be the one that arms the MCOM or captures the area. You just need to be the one there with your squad and support them. Whether you're in the air, in a tank, or on foot, you need to PTFO. Just being in those areas will give you, in the long run, more score, more kills, more wins, and finally, you'll enjoy the game immensely more. If you have two teams focusing on this, it can make the most exciting, competitive, and rewarding rounds you have ever played. Like I said above, wins matter, and you can lose to people who go 5-30 while you go 30-5 just because they played the objective. Remember that. My fourth and last tip isn't really a tip, but more of a general what not to do. Don't be this guy.
What?
Don't ever let anyone catch you being this guy. And finally, don't ever be this guy, because so help me God, I'll scream at you. Being that sniper on the top of a hill or on top of a really tall building will get you nowhere. It's not fun, not entertaining, and it doesn't help your team. You're much more effective playing with your team or squad. Even when you have the 50 cal M82 one-shot kill, you're useless. No one wants to hear how good at spotting you are, or if you're the best sniper ever. We simply do not believe you, and don't try to prove it. On top of this, abandoning vehicles and just using them for transport is a mortal sin in Battlefield. Don't use a transport helicopter to travel to the top of that building and then ditch it, with your team still in the other seats, unknowingly plummeting to their deaths. The transport vehicles and other vehicles are an important asset to your team and mobile spawn points. You're worth more flying that chopper in circles around those buildings rather than jumping out and destroying it and trying to snipe. Don't do it. Finally, rushing the objective alone is a no-no. Even if you're in a position to arm that MCOM all alone, what happens if you die and your squad doesn't get a chance to spawn on you? Who's gonna defend that MCOM or that flag when you're gone or possibly most likely dead? Wait for your team to back you up. Wait for a friendly armor to seal the deal. This game is about team play, and it pays off. Trust me. I hope you guys enjoyed these tips. Even if you're a veteran of Battlefield, these are things we can all improve on. I'll be doing a lot more of these tip videos, looking at equipment, class knowledge, vehicle gameplay, how to rank up fast, etc. So if you haven't already, please subscribe. I do put out more than just this though. I'm planning some different entertaining content like general commentaries, montages, funny moments, that kind of stuff. Until next time, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you later. Peace.
Hey guys, it's Sal here, and today we're going to be doing a video that is a little bit different. Now today's video is going to be focused directly on players that are new to Battlefield. So with the launch of Battlefield 4, I am sure that there are a lot of people that have maybe never tried Battlefield and they want to give it a try. So with this video, I'm going to overview the basics of the game, how to succeed in it, and most importantly, how to have fun. So if you're a new player to the Battlefield franchise, you're probably wondering what the game is all about and what you are going to want to learn how to do. Well, I can tell you right off the bat that your KD is definitely not as important as you think it is. Your kill death ratio, I mean, it's nice to have a good one, but essentially your kill death ratio in Battlefield, most people don't really care what your kill death ratio is. Battlefield 4 and the Battlefield franchise in general is a very, very objective-centric game. So essentially what that means is you play the objective. If you don't, people are going to get upset because that is just the way the game is played. It has always been like that, and I imagine it always will be. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking, well, that sounds kind of lame. I don't want to play the objective just to fend off others' anger. Well, that is not the only reason to play the objective. Playing the objective, well, it helps your team. It is actually a lot of fun because when you play the objectives, you are helping your team, you get a lot of points, and essentially your score is what people look at. They don't even look at your kills and death. You get a really good score, it's a lot of fun, and it's very rewarding, especially if you like to play shooters with friends, like most people do. It is really fun to work as a team to accomplish tasks, rather than just lone wolf, get a good KD, and at the end of the game be like, what's your KD? That's a little bit lame, and essentially that's how most shooters are played, unfortunately. But Battlefield changes that, and it is definitely for the better. So when you do first start playing Battlefield, it can be really easy to get frustrated because you're dying a lot. But say you die a lot, but you're that one guy that arms the bomb. That is infinitely more useful than like getting a lot of kills. If you're just sitting back and killing people, that's not really useful. So I urge you to, it's kind of weird at first, but don't get frustrated if you're dying a lot. Focus on that objective, play that objective, and the skill will come over time. I will guarantee you that. So that's just a little quick look at how the game is played, and it's really important to keep that in mind. Now, as far as what you do in Battlefield, who you are, there are 4 different roles or classes. Now, these classes are Assault, Support, Engineer, and Recon. Now, each of these classes serves its own unique purpose. So first of all, we'll talk about the Assault class. So the Assault class is essentially, as the name implies, your frontline class. They are your frontline assault man, they are the medic, and they can heal their teammates, and they can also revive teammates. So your assault player is kind of like your bread and butter class. They do well in a lot of situations. They have pretty powerful assault rifles. They can heal their enemies, they can heal their teammates and themselves, and revive. So as you can imagine, this is a pretty useful class, and a pretty popular class as well. Now, keep in mind, there are no bad choices when picking a class, it is merely personal preference. And at the same time, don't feel like you need to pick a class and stick with it. You can change classes in between deaths all the time. You're going to end up playing all of them eventually. So don't feel like, say you start with Assault, don't feel you need to play Assault all the time and never try anything else. That is definitely not the case. So, the next class that we will talk about is the Support class. Now, the Support class, as the name also implies, they play a support role, and by doing that, they draw up ammo boxes for their teammates and for themselves. Now, this is really important. You'll actually notice in this clip I do end up running out of ammo, and I end up switching to my pistol, then I use all of that as well. So, basically, support is really useful because you can give your teammates and your squad mates ammo. So, that's a really important role. Now, as far as their weapons go, they have bigger guns that with bipods generally, so they're really good for locking down a position in Rush, for example. You just set up your bipod on a rock, and they just funnel down at you, and you just take them out and line them up. So that is essentially how the Assault class works, and they have cool gadgets, like they can throw C4, they've got a little air burst, which is kind of like a grenade launcher. They're a pretty cool class, and they're really useful, especially if you plan on playing in a team environment. Now, next up we have the Engineer class. Now, essentially the Engineer class is your vehicle class. They are good at taking out vehicles, and they are good at working with vehicles. Now, when I say working with vehicles, basically what I'm saying is that they can repair vehicles, friendly vehicles, and they can also use that same tool, the repair torch, to damage enemy vehicles. Now, as far as taking out vehicles goes, they have stuff like mines, rocket launchers, RPGs. They have stingers, which can lock onto air units. Essentially, they are like the vehicle class. If you're going to do anything with vehicles, driving them, taking them out, the Engineer class is your go-to class. Now, the Engineer class is really useful in a team environment because if you have a tank battle, for example, if you have an engineer behind your tank repairing you, you're going to win that fight because you're essentially taking less damage. Now, as far as the weapons for the Engineer go, they use PDWs. Now, a PDW stands for Personal Defense Weapon, and they are really good for close quarters combat. Now, I think that's kind of weird just because an Engineer, if they're going to be in vehicles and such, they're generally out in the open, so I would probably throw on a carbine. A carbine, if you aren't aware, is a weapon class that is available for every kit. So, if you're good with carbines, that's good because you can use them across all classes. And last but certainly not least, we have the Recon class. Now, the Recon class, short and simple, is your sniping class. Now, sniping in Battlefield it's kind of interesting to say the least because sniping, like a traditional sniper where you sit back and take people out, is kind of frowned upon by the Battlefield community because if you're just sitting back like 600 meters off in the hills trying to pull off that insane headshot, you're not helping your team. But with Battlefield 4, they have changed the Recon class to make it a little more viable and a much more team-oriented class because in the past, Recon was kind of frowned upon just because Recon was generally not very good up close and people were generally far back. And while there definitely were Recon players that did help their team, for the most part, Recon players were a little useless compared to the other classes. But with the release of Battlefield 4, they have made the recon class more useful. Now, I wouldn't recommend that you jump into the recon class right away. I would recommend that you maybe jump in with engineer or something just to learn the game, because the engineer class gives you a lot of ways to help your team feel useful. I mean, you've got rocket launchers. Who doesn't feel useful with a rocket launcher? But essentially what I'm saying is the engineer class is a good starter class just because it offers a lot of ways to help your team in ways that are pretty easy. Because, for example, when you're repairing your squad mate, you get points for that. I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but in Battlefield you have a squad. It's four or five people. 5 is a full squad. But when you play with your squad and you're helping your teammates, you get lots more points. So that's just one more reason to play the objective, play with your team, and just have fun. It's a lot more fun when you're playing with your teammates, and you get more points for it. So, you know, it's a win-win situation. Now, when you first load up Battlefield 4, you're probably going to wonder, what should I play? Now, first of all, I urge you, resist the temptation to play your first match in Team Deathmatch. Team Deathmatch, it's a really fun game type, I will say that. But as for a new player, it just doesn't really encompass what Battlefield 4 is. It doesn't have that objective sense to it, which I have tried to drill into your mind is a very important aspect of Battlefield 4. So, what should you play at first? Well, one game type that I would probably recommend above the others would be Conquest, just because it's a staple Battlefield game type, and at the same time it's a lot of fun. So, what is Conquest? Conquest is basically similar to Domination from Call of Duty. Essentially, you have 3 to 5 objectives, or even more, but basically, your goal is to capture those objectives and hold on to them, and at the same time, kill the enemy. And you win this by depleting your enemy's tickets to 0, because each team has tickets, and they lose tickets when their team members die, and they also bleed tickets when they own less than half of the objectives on the map. So, essentially, this game type just really embodies what Battlefield should be and how objectives should be played, so don't feel like you have to do this. This is just merely a recommendation of what I feel really shows what Battlefield should be and how it should be played. Now, Battlefield does have a certain learning curve associated with it, like any shooter, but I encourage you to just persevere, stick with it. Once you understand how the game works, you will start having a lot of fun. So guys, that just about wraps up today's beginner's guide to Battlefield 4. If you have liked this video, you can leave a like, and if you want to see more Battlefield 4 footage, subscribe to me. That is what I do. So I thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.